So now we're going to talk about the asset protection aspect of things. There are a lot of people that I've come across and that I know and that I've heard of using those, asset protection sites that are advertised all over the place. I won't say which ones. I think we all know what I'm talking about. But you see a lot of those ads where it's, easily set up your LLC or corporation, just file in 10 minutes and you're good to go. And people believe that, and what it kind of goes back to those things where it's like you don't know what you don't know, and it's very misleading because you're not done, you're not even close. You're still leaving yourself open to not only lawsuits, but lawsuits that you will likely lose because you thought all you needed was an LLC or corporation, and they send you the boilerplate documentation, and you're protected. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So let's take a look here. Because when you're creating a business and setting up a business entity like an LLC, you're literally starting a business. You're not, and not just for real estate, it's for any type of business. And so, you kind of want to do a couple things to treat your LLC or your corporation the way that you need to. You need to treat it like a business separate from your personal life, or else it can cause some issues. So for example, you'll want to keep meeting minutes, even either monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually. Even if you have a single member LLC, you even want to sit down for a half an hour, and just write notes of what you've done, what you're working on, and what you plan on working on. And because that's what a business does. They plan, they track what they've done, and so that they can learn from their mistakes, and et cetera, et cetera. So and the next part, that's a big part, is that you want to make sure there's no commingling of your personal and business assets. I mean, it does happen, but there's things that you can do to, make sure that you reimburse yourself and things like that. We won't get too deep into it, but you want to have separate bank accounts and make sure your revenue and expenses are separate from your W-2 income and things like that, AKA good bookkeeping. It can become a big issue. I've seen a lot of wealthy people just treat their businesses like a piggy bank. And I'm like, all right, that's not my problem, but they'll have to deal with that with their CPA when tax time rolls around. So it is what it is. But yeah, and then the last one, which kind of alludes to what I was just talking about, is maintaining proper documentation. So for an LLC, that's going to be your operating agreement, and for corporations, typically your bylaws. But yeah, you want to keep that proper documentation because, like I said, these business mills or whatever you want to call them, they'll say, hey, drop $500, we'll do everything for you, and then we'll just send you all the documents and you're good to go. But what they don't tell you is that they're going to be, most of the time, not all of them, but most of the time, they're going to send you a boilerplate situation where it's going to be something that is applicable to everybody. And when it's applicable to everybody, it's applicable to nobody. And what I mean by that is if you just have the boilerplate agreements on file, which are essentially like all of your specific structure of your business and how you run your business and what to do when this happens and what to do when that happens. If you don't have any of that and you just have this boilerplate thing and something goes wrong, you step in front of a judge and you basically have to say, hey, here's my operating agreement. He or she's going to take a look at it and say, all right, cool. Well, this particular situation that you guys are going through is not even in here. So you've only known me for 5 minutes. And so I'm going to make all the decisions for you based on, state law. And so do you really want to just kind of give up that kind of power to somebody that just met, a couple minutes ago? That's even though they're a judge and they're going to try and do the right thing. Essentially, if you don't treat your LLC or corporation like a business, neither will a judge. So just treat it like a business, and it'll hopefully work out for you. It'll give you a better chance. Yeah, like I said, it'll better your chances of both the inside and outside protection. And so since like I said, we were going to touch on that aspect of it. What is inside and outside protection? So when you're looking at inside protection, you're basically protecting your personal assets from your LLC's issues, if you will. So say if you're in the normal course of your business, somebody, something goes wrong, somebody sues you, and let's say, yeah, you made a mistake, and and the judge sees like, yeah, hey, you dropped the ball on this issue, you're liable. In this case, if you have the inside protection, all of your personal stuff is protected. That person should just only be able to come after your business's assets, and unfortunately you would pay them through that. But if the business doesn't have it, at least they can't come after your car, your house, blah blah blah. But then you also have outside protection as well too, which essentially protects your LLC from your personal issues. So it's almost the exact opposite, where say you're driving to visit your family, and you're going down to hang out with them, and along the way, so it's non-business related, and you're on your way out there, you're messing around texting on your phone, and you accidentally slam into the back of somebody, and you're at fault, and they at the end of the day, they say, all right, well, you're liable. And then at that point, at least, yeah, they can maybe come after your personal assets, your house, your car, whatever the case is, but at least they won't be able to come after your LLC. Your LLC is protected, it comes with that outside protection. So yeah, but like I said, you're only going to be able to get those benefits if you treat it like a business. Because if you don't treat it like a business, the judge is going to see, okay, you're just treating it like a piggy bank, and there's no distinction between you and what you're doing as your business. So why should I treat it any differently? So yeah. So like I said, if you don't treat it that way, someone can sue you and obtain what they call a charging order, which is essentially it pierces your veil of liability protection. And as a result, any distributions that you were to take from your business would have to go to the creditor first and foremost before it can go to you. So if you want to take that bonus that you take every year of 50 grand or whatever the case is, nope, it's got to go to the creditor first. So that's one of the huge downsides, is that they kind of get priority over your stuff at that point. So yeah, so I'll stop it right there. Like I said, didn't want to dive too deep into it. I mean, there's obviously a lot that goes with it, but yeah, a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, a lot of people that I've talked to don't really know about it. Not to their fault, but because they, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm just sharing the wealth of knowledge, if you will. But yeah, any questions?
I have a question.
Hey.
S corp versus C corp under the LLC.
Mhm.
Which one do we do?
Well, it also that depends on your strategy. That's a good question. It depends on your strategy. So, for instance, with like rental properties, the preferred method is like and like I said, you want to talk to a CPA to get definitive answers. But yeah, the preferred method for real rental properties is our LLCs. And then if you're going to be flipping a home or something like that, and doing something like maybe a wholesaling, I believe is another good avenue, would be better suited for S corps. And I I think on a larger, grander scale, you'll want to do a C corp for other types of real estate. Honestly, that's not my strong suit as far as corporations and things of that nature go. So I can't really answer that question for you. If anybody knows that answer, if anybody's got experience in that realm, or if we have an attorney on here, that would want to speak up, obviously. But yeah, so I'm not 100% sure on the C corp aspect of things though.
But okay, so back to the example of Disney. So what he did
Mm.
was he created an LLC, but I think you also said he created a corporation. But I also
Yeah.
think that the LLC can be set up as an S corp or a C corp, and then you also have the standard entity that's under the corporation. It's kind of confusing. So I'm not sure how. I'm kind of confused as to how Disney did it.
Sure. So what you're thinking about is the tax treatment of the LLC. So when you're thinking about the LLC, that they give you the option to be taxed as like a partnership or an S corp or a C corp. And so yeah, so that aspect of it you can change and you can manipulate, or however you want to put it. But at the end of the day, it's still an LLC in that form. It's just tax treatment.
And what did you say was would be an application of the S corp?
Oh, I've just seen S corps a lot with like when you're flipping homes and things like that. Um, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I meant to double check on this before the call, but it has to do with like I said, it's more of a tax thing. It's more of a tax benefit aspect of things. But yeah, let me actually research that and get back. And the more so is also because rental properties is my focus. I don't really have too much of an interest in flipping, so that's why I haven't dove too deep into that. But I don't know if anybody else has any insight on that aspect of it. Feel free to.
Hey, what's up, D? Yeah, I have like a little bit of insight on it. So basically, with the S corp, it's a pass-through entity. So that means
Right.
that all the income that you make, it goes directly to you.
Mhm.
So that means it passes through your LLC, and you collect the money on your personal return. Basically, it gets lumped up together with your W-2 wages and everything like that. If
Mhm.
you have a C corp, then you're kind of taxed twice because your corporation is taxed first
Mhm.
on that net income, and then you're also taxed again when that net income is distributed to whoever the owners are, which would most likely be you. So,
Yeah.
you or many people. So that's why it really depends on the strategy of the company of whether they go with S corp or C corp, and with S corp there's different rules. So like it's
Yeah.
I think it's a California thing, but you have to have like 20, like under 25 members, and I think with a C corp you can have hundreds or thousands. So think like public corporations when you buy stock and stuff like that. Those are
Mhm.
usually C corporations, and so the company itself is taxed, and then once the company gets their share of tax, the whatever's left over becomes net income, and that's distributed to the owners, and then you guys are taxed on the revenue that you made from that investment of owning that company. But they're all LLCs, and they all provide protection from your assets.
Mhm.
Well, okay, so but then we're okay, thank you. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great information. But then in the scope of setting up the land trust, the LLC, the whole idea is anonymity. So if you set up an LLC, it's and then you set it up for tax treatment as an S corp, but you're hiding yourself,
Mhm.
then how does that work? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and it just kind of goes beyond the scope of what
Okay.
we're talking about. Not that I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it offline. It's just the fact that there's there it can get very complicated. So chances are he did it for a specific reason. So yeah, so for instance, he could have just chosen, a regular nominee trustee, and say like he had one of his attorneys that he wanted to have be his nominee trustee for, acquiring all the land and everything. But let's say he has this super high profile attorney that everybody knows that that's Walt Disney's attorney. So at the end of the day, he's basically wanting to provide just an extra anytime you see like a corporation or anything that's kind of input into those, or any kind of entity that's put into those places, it's usually for a reason. It's either for like protection or anonymity. So I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure it's extremely more layered and complicated than what I was referencing right there. But basically, that was like the super simplified version of it. But like I said, to kind of just put a bow on it, he did it for a reason, and it's either for asset protection or anonymity or tax reasons as well too. So
Right, Indy. I think it's about more so control, more so than where the revenue goes, because
right,
it's about controlling the asset, which is the land,
right,
not not getting revenue from the land. And so
right,
I think he just wanted to control the land, but hide himself. And then once everything's done, the corporation owns the land through the trust, so it's still blocked, but they still make money from they're the beneficiary, so they still make money from you know, let's say they sold it or whatever, right? When they make as the beneficiary, they would make the money from it, but that has nothing to do with the control for the trust. The trust is just for a layer of protection for control, like
right.
hiding your control.
Visibility, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, and yeah, exactly. So essentially, that's what I was alluding to in terms of the anonymity and protection aspect of it. Because remember, the nominee trustee is only temporary. So those shell corporations, those are probably already dissolved. A very short period after the fact, that after everything was done and all the land was acquired, those are probably dissolved within a very short amount of time. So yeah, it's not necessarily about the revenue aspect of it. It's about some form of control and being able to protect themselves, and just basically getting the job done as far as acquiring the land. It did its job, and then they get rid of it, and then him and his business and the Disneyland Corporation are the ultimate owners at the end of the day, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
I have a question, two questions. One, can the grantor and the trustee be the same person, meaning me?
Yes, yes. So, going through those three components of a trust, you have the trustee, you have the grantor, and the beneficiary. A lot of times when people set up a living trust, a lot of times it's just themselves. Like if I wanted to set up one, it's D is the trustee, and then I'm also the grantor because I'm putting in all my assets, but then I'm also the beneficiary because I own everything and it's my stuff. So yeah, a lot of time, all those can be the same. You can change them up and make them different people. Yeah. All right. So.